All right, you guys, today is so special. We get to hang out with my good friend, Alex Starr. A little bit about Alex before we get into the meat here. Alex is an AmeriCorps alumni, entrepreneur, and former wildland firefighter whose writings and podcast, Rewrite the Rules, have reached thousands of people around the globe. He currently lives in Austin with his fiance, Ashley, and fierce dog, Macy. And he has a brand new book out, Rewrite the Rules, which I just finished and I cannot stop talking about. So we're talking about it today. Thanks for being here, bud.
Yes, nice. I'm just happy that you don't finish books, but you finished mine.
I don't. I usually have like three
Did you get
going
bored?
at a time. Yeah. I
Oh,
get
okay. Yeah,
bored.
yeah.
And if I feel like I'm not great at books that are just fun, like I feel like I'm not getting something out of it and it's not impacting me, I'm like, I'll come
So
back
you
to
don't
this.
read fiction at all?
Not if it's like I'll read fiction like the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Where
Right. That's Robin Sharma, I think, or
yes,
whatever it is.
where it
Yeah. So
has
no
life
50
lessons.
Shades of Grey. Okay, got
Okay, well, I have read that like
it.
college. I did read that in college. And I finished it. So great example. However, I blew through this book because I was getting so much out of it. I mean, I texted you during the first chapter of like, this is just speaking
I
directly
printed that
to
text
me.
out, by the way. I'm picking it up at Walgreens today.
Put it in your warm fuzzy
I'm
file.
I'm just gonna put it on my wall to like keep me motivated, like to
Yeah.
keep getting the book out as much as possible because of that
Yeah. I
text.
mean, I know you've been working on this for years. So
Yeah.
let's go back to really this why. And I think I'm, maybe one of the people who is helping you see that this is going to make a big impact in a lot of people's lives. But
Yeah.
where did this all start? I know there's been journals. I know there have been, writing camps that you've put yourself into. Um, but talk to us
Yeah.
about where this inspiration, if you will, or decision to make it a book came from.
I mean, the book itself, I mean, the message behind it started, I think, when I graduated college. And I think, like most people, I went through the motions of what you're just kind of told to do,
Yeah.
and you go to high school. From there, a lot of people are told to either get a good job or to go to college. Those are usually the two options that are presented to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
From really, like, my parents are great people. I love them to death, super well intentioned, but like we're all just caught up in what the system kind of dictates as your next steps. And so
Yeah.
I think from there is when I chose AmeriCorps. And then that's what really opened my eyes to all these different people and these different experiences. And I just kind of from there, that 1 year was so pivotal in my life because it's like I just got addicted to the fact that I don't have to go get a regular 9 to 5 job because that was my main like prerogative was just not to. I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that yet, and that's what led me to firefighting. That's what led me to start the podcast because I was meeting all these amazing people. So the
Mm-hmm.
book though, just I mean, I've been wanting to have a book out since I was 10 years old. I've
Okay.
always loved writing. Writing
Yeah.
is like, that one thing that people say is like not like your calling, but like when you're doing it, it's
Flow.
like the one thing that it's like I get in flow. I feel like I'm decent at it, and I feel like people decently resonate with what I write. And there's not a whole lot of
Absolutely.
things in my life that I have that with. So
Mm.
I've always wanted to write a book, and so then through that's always been on my mind. And then I met the right people in Austin at the right time that helped me. My buddy Greg was huge in making me and holding me accountable to making it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I love it. I do think that you have a natural ability to captivate. Like I said, I felt like we were in conversation. We've had lots of real conversations, but like this book,
Yeah.
I was like, yes, dude gets me. And I think the reason why it resonated so much is because I also had that like rebelliousness. Like I don't know like what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing that. Like I'm not being that like status quo 9 to 5 person and then, navigating what that actually means. And you took some different routes, some really interesting routes into, firefighting and the AmeriCorps and random trips to Guatemala and hotel building excursions, all things
Yeah.
I didn't know you just said yes to. And one of the things that I want to talk about today, because you've helped me a lot with this, idea around being that rebel, about not doing it a certain way, like there's a lot of ego wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation once when I was trying to make a decision about business things, and you're like, is it just this identity of being an entrepreneur that you're attached to, or is there something that you really need to like pursue in entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
And I heard that question throughout the book as well from you. Like, is it that we must do it a certain way, or is it that we must, be what we think or what society wants us to be, right? Quote, I promise you I have some quotes I want to interweave into this.
I'd love to hear which ones you chose. Yeah.
You say, we have to be diligent. You have to get in touch with your instincts and discover what you want, not what others want for you. Otherwise, you will lose yourself, literally, figuratively, or some disastrous mix of both. You give some good examples of how to get clarity on what you actually want. But I want to dig into that more because it's not easy.
No, I mean, first of all, I think like so there's a lot of pieces to that. I mean, one, yes, ego it gets its slimy little claws into everything. And I also hate to like be vindictive against ourselves, but like, it's kind of a part of us that it wants to get involved in everything. And it is hard to decipher. Like the biggest question I think for everyone is like, what do I want versus what society wants?
Yeah.
Right. And how do you tell the difference? Because there's a lot of voices, especially nowadays, like there's a lot of input all the time. And there's a lot of, you maybe think you made a right decision, then you go on Instagram and let's say you decide that you like, you want to, you want to jump into, the corporate world. I don't know what, and you want to actually get like a stable job because you've never had that before. You go on Instagram and you see one picture of someone with their laptop open on the fucking beach. And that little voice goes, are you making the right choice? Are you sure is this what you want? Or is that what you think you want because of this person? So the only antidote, the only way to truly consistently get clear on yourself as you evolve and change, right? Because like what I wanted 5 years ago and was like true to my nature then, and like really what I wanted to pursue is not what I want to pursue now. The only way to do that is through silence. I know everyone talks about meditation, but it doesn't even have to be meditation. It can literally just be like, the first thing is you can't be near a screen when this happens.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. If you are more than 30 feet away from a screen, including your phone, that's the only way this is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many of us are lost. I know for sure the more that I'm on my phone, on the computer, looking at stupid YouTube videos, and then you go and relax and watch a movie with the fiance, and I spent 10 hours in front of the TV and I had there's no gap there to like get clear on, to let like the downloads happen. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And you talk about doing like a day off of your phone. I know you take Saturdays kind of off of the phone, off of the computer, because like you say, life is loud and
everything's loud. Yeah.
Everything is loud. And yeah, we have social media, in our faces, and what they're doing next door and what you wanted yesterday. And, that's all messy. But I also so appreciated your historical take on these expectations, in the way that history, like our parents, their experiences are still impacting us, even though that's not what we see on a screen. So I'm curious for you, where did that insight, or where did that curiosity come from to kind of take a look at what we think we want from that historical perspective?
You mean like in terms of like going back to like the Industrial Revolution and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the way that I view the world is like, it's like, do you know Mimetics? Mimetics, but with Richard Dawkins came up with that concept. So it's where we get memes. So any internet meme, that's a gene, right? So genetics are biological information, right? That tells a different organism how to act and the way to grow. And then each piece of that genetic code is a specific gene, right? Mimetics, which was coined by Richard Dawkins, is that same transmission of information, but it's cultural transmission of information. And each little piece of that cultural transmission is a meme. And so
Mm.
that's why you see memes or little tiny bits of cultural information being transmitted, right? So I see the world through like mimetics in a lot of ways, and like that, yes, we are here, but like, my God, we are just here in this little tiny sliver of time.
Yeah.
And we're only here mainly because of the past. I mean, obviously there's hundreds of thousands of millions of years going into it, but like this specific predicament of like the way that the system looks at this very moment, Judeo-Christian based societies, how relationships look like, it really is quite recent. Even going back like 10,000 years until the advent of civilization, we don't know the previous 190,000 of what Homo sapiens looked like. So whenever you hear somebody say, this is just how it's been, this is just how humans are, look at the Romans, it's like, yeah, but that's 1% of our history as Homo sapiens. So, and then you go back just the Industrial Revolution, and we're talking like a small second of time that we've all just been thrust into. And so I just always think it's important to like take a step back and realize like that just because you're in like this computer program, it doesn't mean that like there aren't, just because you happen to be born into a Mac, it doesn't mean that there isn't a PC, but no one wants to go to a fucking PC, but that's the metaphor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there are other ways of living life and doing things, and we just happen to be swept up in this particular one in this particular country.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, specifically for us in this country, in this generation, our parents, so our grandparents, like my grandpa was a spy in Japan during World War II.
Yeah, that's
He
crazy.
comes back home, and the government takes care of him. He gets a great government job. He has 4 kids. He gets the nice car. He has the house on the corner, and everyone is, behind the white picket fence. And then my parents come from that upbringing. And like you talk about in the book, like their main motivator is stability, is comfort, is like those
Security, yeah.
material things. And so then here we come as like millennials saying, screw all that. I don't care about safety. I don't care about your 9 to 5. I don't care about, that way of being. And it helped me integrate something. When you see a quote and you're like, that's nice, but you don't really get it. And then you have an experience and you're like,
Yeah, all the time.
oh yeah, like that's what they mean by be the change you wish to see.
Yeah.
That chapter on like the generations and where we are now really made me integrate this thing I've been saying but not really understanding. That is, everyone is doing the best that they can with the limited resources that they have. Like my parents are doing the best they can to support me with their limiting beliefs and background. And that was really powerful. So I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, and it's when you get down to the micro level of like, yeah, the Great Depression and those influences on our parents, and then the pendulum just kind of swings the other way. And then also I think a lot of people in our generation, I think a lot of people saw like their parents, what their parents were preaching wasn't exactly, first of all, we looked at it and we're like, you're preaching this to me, but it doesn't mean I don't want your life. But now you're telling me that I have to go get your exact life. And at the same time, the internet was happening and we were able to actually see all these other possibilities, and everything expanded. And our parents, God bless them, you're stuck in kind of the confines of where you grew up a little bit and what they think is possible. So it's like, it's legitimately impossible to get some people's mindsets. It's like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And sometimes you just like, there's this, it's so ingrained that like, no, you 9 to 5, you work for 30 years and you retire. You 9 to 5, work for 30 years, invest and retire. And anything that deviates from that, it like literally doesn't compute with their operating system.
Yeah. The call I had right before this was with a client who's our age, right in between us, I would say. And her parents sat her down over the weekend and were like, we are very worried about you. You're not living in reality, because she's pursuing her own business. And her parents said to her that life is not about doing what you want. It's about doing what you have to so that you can get what you want. And that is like so cringeworthy for me and this, Dahlia, our client, because I definitely have seen it happen in a different way. But if you haven't seen that following joy pays off, that you can rewrite the rules, that your dream life can be your real life. It's impossible to explain it. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I think it's complicated because I think that it's intertwined because a lot of times to get like, it's like just seeking joy for the sake of joy is just going to be like a hedonistic,
Mm-hmm.
you know, pit of nothingness at the end of the day because you didn't struggle to get there. So you kind of, I do agree with the sense that like you kind of have to struggle and do what you have to do in order to get what you want, but you also need to do what you want in order to make the struggle worthwhile to get what you want. So they kind of intertwine, I think. And then oh man, I had another point at the end there. Oh shit, now I forgot it. I had a good point there. I was gonna, maybe it wasn't a good point, but I had a point that I now forgot.
Well, maybe it's less about following joy than like seeking to fill that purpose, you know? Like you talk about finding what your purpose is
Yeah,
and living on that.
that's what I was. Yeah, so I think a lot of the stuff, once again, like the Mimetics thing, where this is all coming from, is like our like the Puritan, like anti-pleasure. Don't talk about sex. We eat this type of food. Just there's that kind of like mentality that like, yeah, life is a struggle, but I think like some people take in the sense that life is only a struggle, and that to
Mhm.
pursue any type of pleasure now makes you the devil. I think that's where a lot of it stems from. Not to bring like too much religion into it,
Yeah.
but I think there's just a lot of that still that like seeps in through the corners, and it makes you almost feel guilty for wanting to do something that you enjoy, right? And to do something that you actually find meaningful is yeah, kind of living in a fantasy land, kid, is kind of what you think in your head.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. There's certainly so many cases of that, but they're so small and few in between. You don't really hear about them. So it's harder to validate it to yourself because most things that you read about in the mainstream media and stuff like that aren't those types of circumstances. They're just more the normal stuff,
Yeah.
normal path.
Yeah. And this connects to a question that the book left me with, to be honest. The
Okay.
question I've left with is, what am I chasing?
Mm.
And I'm gonna drop another quote here because like is it the like Instagram life like we were talking about? Is it our parents' approval? Is it money? I know you talk to people that just kind of like given up money. And this is something you quoted in the book. If you find your purpose and live it every day, I promise it won't matter how big your house is or how nice your car is, because no thing can change the completeness you feel from living your purpose. I'm unclear what that really feels like. Really living my purpose. Like maybe I'm just questioning it. But I'm curious for you, having tried on lots of purposes, like
Mm-hmm.
tried on lots of ways of being or goals. How do we know? Like, what is the byproduct or what is the evidence that we're living on purpose?
That's a great question. I think progress, at least for me, it's just making progress. I think searching for like a true purpose can be somewhat futile, at least for me, or futile, however you pronounce that. But whenever I'm like making progress towards something that I at least find meaningful, then I find a lot of purpose in that. Like, for instance, I didn't really want a dog. At the beginning of this year, I didn't want a dog and we didn't have a dog. By March, my fiance convinced me to get a dog. And then I soon thereafter was finding a lot of purpose in seeing the progress in me training her to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling that when she was like sitting, I was like, oh my God, I fucking taught her how to sit. And I think the best way to describe it is like a sense of purpose
Mm.
that was through making progress on something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a feeling. And for me, I know I always you've called me out on this before. Like I wait for the other shoe to drop. I can like be like, is this too good to be true? Like when is this gonna like facade end? Like when is the success gonna run out? When am I gonna have to go like get a real job or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
maybe it's just about like, yeah, like that, allowing that feeling, whether it's like teaching your dog to sit or enrolling a new client or making a move that you wanted to make, but it's not like it's not the
I
same
think they're small. I
purpose
think it's
every
just
day. Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like I think the flip side of our parents is that there's a whole industry built on that. Like, you're going to have this epiphany moment that you know for sure what your purpose is for the rest of your fucking life. And it's going to feel so strong that you're going to know it 100% and it's never going to deviate.
Yeah.
And I don't know a single person that fits in that category.
Yeah.
Certainly has never happened for me. You know, the purpose, like I said, yeah, it's come from like, I think it comes from smaller moments, and it's creating a life where you can have more of those small moments. You know, I kind of see it as like, you know, like if you go walk around, like there's like different trails you can take, right? Like you can go walk down like a really small trail, you can take a really big path, but you can also go them in all different directions. So I think like if you're living a life that is just like, hey, I'm living this a little more for myself than for other people, right? Which is kind of as good as you can get, then you're probably walking down a really wide path, but you're going the direction that you want. But it doesn't mean that like that purpose is like kind of deviating from thing to thing and interest to interest. You know what I mean?
I think
That's the way
that,
I look at it, at least.
yeah, the tricky thing for me as an achiever, type A, recovering like goody two
You,
shoes,
you, what?
I know, is that I'm always looking for like the finish line. This is
Yeah,
like the perfect metaphor is running, right? Like some people can just like run to run, but I want to run to like do a race and like hit a
yeah.
time and like complete a thing and like do the whole like event of it. But life isn't like that. Life isn't like a race day. It's like these little moments that we decide like this is bringing me joy. This feels in alignment. This is exciting. And
Mm-hmm.
not like here's your participation ribbon for living on purpose. Everyone give her a round of applause.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that, I, I I hate to be the guy that just like tirades against like the system and the government and stuff, but I do think that a lot of that comes from like the mechanization, I guess, of humans in the past 150 years and becoming like those cogs and machines. And so a lot of us are valued off of productivity and efficiency, as opposed to how much
Yeah.
you can make somebody else laugh, or
Yeah.
like how good your smile is. Like, who the fuck, what good is that in the fucking marketplace? Get off my floor making my piggy banks for people in China. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of us are trained to like, what's the output? Am I being
Yeah.
effective? Am I being productive? Am I being efficient? And if not, then it's probably not worthwhile, because that's what the system and the market tells you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't
My
remember
dog,
the
yeah.
exact quote, but you say something like, you think that your perception of the most successful people are the ones who know themselves, who are in alignment with themselves, and then found a way to match the current economy or industry.
Right. Yeah. Like
Because you got to play
finding
the game in some way, right? You got to,
right. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I mean, Apple Jobs is always the classic example, but you can choose anyone. Like, you know, comedians always come up for me as people. Like, that's why I have a few comedian quotes in like Bill Burr and Ricky Gervais, because like
Mhm.
they're them. Like comedians really like resonate, I think, with a lot of people, because like they are like the antidote to the PC culture, and just, you know, the way that we all kind of put on these facades. Like, man, that I think Ricky Gervais, like that's kind of Ricky Gervais, except for Ellen DeGeneres, you know, apparently, you know, besides her. But you know, Ricky Gervais and those people, like they are being themselves, but then they found a way to be 100% themselves and then mesh it in with the system, and they're millionaires. So they found a way to like use themselves and use the system to maximize themselves. And
Mhm.
I think that that's a really, I think we're getting closer now with the way society is going in the internet, that more and more people can do that. But I think before the past 20 years, I think you had to kind of get in your box and stay there.
Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely opportunity to be yourself as like a living with
Yeah, I mean,
influencers and
well, and creators, like
things.
anybody, my buddy, this is a perfect example. My buddy got a real Tim Cannon on TikTok. Okay. He's a buddy of mine since I was like in second grade, and he went to Hollywood to try and be an actor like 3 years ago. He was doing, he was in a few commercials, extra spots on Will and Grace, but he was just kind of doing that grind. He would literally worked at a coffee shop, like the whole 9 yards of what you think of as someone trying to make it as an actor in Hollywood. And 3 years, nothing really panned out the way he wanted it to, right? Because like there's a ton of gatekeepers, and it's a whole like massive system and bureaucracy that you gotta get through and get really lucky to get through or know somebody, right? It's a lot. So anyway, COVID hits. He goes back home to live at his parents' house because nothing's open in LA. There's no acting jobs anyway. So he goes back there, starts making TikTok videos at the beginning of last year because he does comedy acting. So he starts making these funny TikTok videos. He went from 0 to he's had almost 300,000 followers he did it in the first like 4 months was the majority of them. And now he slowly climbed. So within a year, he has 300,000 people now that are actively following him. And that's it. That's the definition of like the new world, the new economy, and the new potential for possibilities is exactly that. As a creator, as someone who he makes silly videos. They're hilarious. But like before 10 years ago, oh, you didn't make it in Hollywood? Well, go fucking get a real job. See you in 20 years when you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like that's kind of your ethos with the book. Like rewrite the rules, like know yourself, know the game, and then play accordingly.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Thanks. You can make a t-shirt that says that on the back or something. So obviously, there's lots of great stuff in the book about finding like what is your purpose and living intentionally. But there's also a really big section about your network, right? The people you surround yourself with. There are actual templates of how to make friends in this book.
Keep friends. Yeah.
Just this conversation, we've referenced people we know that have enriched our understanding of our purpose or our life. And I would love to know for specifically the month of yes. So when you moved to Austin, you said yes to everything. I'm curious if there are like lasting lessons, right? So what were some of your biggest takeaways of leaning into networking, even when you didn't want to, saying yes and deciding that you were going to befriend anyone? Let's talk through some of those lessons, because I personally I'm resistant to that.
Making new friends, you mean?
Not making new friends, but I have leaned on two limiting beliefs, I think. First one is that I'm an introvert, and now you talk about that that's just me wanting to stay in my yoga pants. But also the second piece,
you might be more introverted than normal people too. That might be a thing. That might be true. Yeah.
But this like quality piece. So you give like small talk, and that's helpful for someone like me who like isn't about small talk. I'm the girl like at the coffee shop that's like, so do you feel like you're living your life purpose, or could you be doing more? Not like pretty foggy today. So I want to navigate.
That's cool too, though. I like when people do that too.
Because what I took from the book, and you can tell me differently, was that just like more people, more conversations, go. And I have been someone who's, again, maybe this is a limiting belief, been like quality. Like if you don't get me, that's cool. Like we don't need to keep hanging out.
Yeah. I don't think that's terrible either. I don't think it's really either one. I think the main point of that chapter was to stress the fact that like biologically you will have a better life no matter what you're doing, and you'll be able to live your dream life or rewrite the rules better, and you'll be happier while you do it by just having good relationships in your life. And maybe that's 4, maybe that's 2, and maybe that's 20. Like seriously, everybody's different. I just happen to be predisposed to wanting to keep a lot of friends in my network.
Yeah.
But my fiance is totally satisfied with having 3 really good friends. You know what I mean? Like, I really think everybody's different with that. And we shouldn't, kind of like I mentioned in there, it's like, I know people that are way more extroverted than me, and I try not to compare myself to them at parties and stuff, because they talk to I have a buddy, Adam, he talks to anybody for an hour. And I talked to you for 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm fucking exhausted.
I'm gonna make the rounds, as you say in the book. That's
I'm gonna make the rounds. Yeah. That usually means I'm gonna go get another beer.
Yeah.
But I think it's just simple in the sense of like, you make good friends and then keeping good
Yeah,
friends.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's where it gets hard for me. It gets hard for a lot of people, is like just keeping in touch with people that you care
Yeah.
about, like that will make your life better. And in a selfish way, it'll also like open up more avenues and more potential for things you want to do in life. Like I don't have any special skills, really. I really don't. I think I'm okay at writing, but a lot of the stuff that's come
You can
into my
make a dog
life,
sit. Come on, dude. You're
I can
selling
make a
yourself
dog,
short.
yeah, half the time, half the time, half the time. But a lot of the good stuff, I just realized a lot of the good stuff that's coming into my life was because of the people that I kept
Yeah.
in it. And
Yeah.
I just think that it's so important. And it's statistically, scientifically, like backed up too, that it is the most important thing to your happiness, without
Yeah.
a doubt.
And I'll vouch for you. You are the type of person who always answers the phone, replies to texts. And, I think that we've seen each other in real life, but I think it's so powerful now more than ever to be conscious about that. And you're a great example of like being far away or not seeing each other all of the time, but still like being there. And I think I'm losing that. I absolutely am losing that. Like I don't always answer the phone. I don't always text people back. I like to make excuses for why I'm not going to be at your wedding or your bridal shower. But I think, what I'm taking away from that is like, for me, I need to be more intentional about, maintaining the relationships that I do have.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how
I
I'll
don't.
take
I don't think I've ever regretted. I don't think people have ever regretted calling somebody. Like if you call somebody and talk to them for 10 minutes, I've never regretted that before. You know what I mean? But I've definitely sat there and thought about and regretted the fact that I forgot to call this person back, or
right.
man, I need to. But I've never actually regretted calling or texting somebody just to stay in touch with somebody.
Right. And at the end of the day, you're going to regret the shots that you don't take. Right.
Yeah, and you're gonna, you're going to that shit. And I think the biggest thing about relationships is like, especially nowadays, it's so easy not to send the text. It's also easy to send the text, and that shit compounds over time
Yeah.
so quickly. And so if you're looking around and don't have a lot of friendships now, or you just want to expand your friendships or whatever that looks like, it's probably because the past few years you haven't been putting in the effort to maintain them.
Yeah.
And we're all waiting for the other person to reach out to us.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've texted somebody, and I thought that they were going to text me first,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. But then we ended up hanging out and we're good friends. But it's just because we're all waiting for the other person to text us first. What I mean?
Absolutely.
Everyone's
Absolutely.
sitting in their rooms watching TV, just like, oh, maybe they'll text me. And then 2 years go by and
You're still
there you
watching
go.
Netflix.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I will tell you that my word for this year is collaboration, because I
Nice.
definitely see the value in strategic partnerships and team and friendship too. I guess. Yeah.
There you go.
This conversation is shedding light on like I just like books. I want my people to be productive. I want it to like be
Yeah.
beneficial in some way. And
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the point of relationships, is to be beneficial. I think sometimes I get this in my head sometimes too, where it's like, if I talk to someone for a half hour and I could have been doing something else that was, once again, like more productive, more efficient. It's like this little voice that's like, well, is it really worth that time?
yeah.
Because once again, it's like that very focused thinking on like productivity, efficiency, and money.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff. I do want to switch gears and put you on a different hot seat here. Because
Woo!
you've thought since you were 10 that you want to have a book. I know you've been, doing interviews and collecting experiences for your lifetime to put this book together.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about just, like put out the value, like put out the thing, and what it becomes, it becomes. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious for you now, as the book is a real thing, it's in the hands of
Mm-hmm.
real people. What
Mm-hmm.
would be a great, what do you want, where do you want to see this go? You mentioned just seeing a text message of me saying like, this is great is part of what
Mm-hmm.
you're after. But where are you hoping that this book goes or takes you?
I want to have 300 reviews on Amazon, and I want it to sell at least 10,000 copies is the numbers behind it. And I would like it to take me somewhere that, so when I first wrote this outline with my buddy, and he does this for a living, and one of the questions they ask you when you first start the book is like, what's like the champagne popping moment? Like when this happens, how are you going to know that you made it, that you did what you set out to do? And mine was that the first time that I just say my name to someone that I meet randomly or at a party, and they say, "Oh, Alex Starr, wait, did you write the book Rewrite the Rules? I just read that." So I think just getting this out there, growing the knowledge about me and my writing, and having people really resonate with it, and reach out and start to want to join the community, listen to the podcast, and get more of it will be a sign to me that like
You just want more friends out of this whole thing.
I
More people to call and text.
just want to have I want my next birthday party to just be like 500 people basically.
Dude, that's coming up. Like,
yeah, no, not this one. That'll be too soon. Next year's.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that, you're well on your way to that. Like I said, this is something that I know a lot of folks like us. We are not the only ones out here wondering, is there a different way to do this? Should I be pursuing something other than what I grew up thinking was, the American dream, if you will? So I hope we can help you. And, this audience can help you get closer to that goal. Cause I think it's like that good. It's like I don't know why I keep coming back to this, but it felt like a friend, like a conversation, like, hey, I see you, but in also a productive way of like, but here's a better way to approach that relationship with your parents or that goal that you keep banging your head against. So I love it. I'm going to keep reading it and spreading it around, but where can other folks learn about this, redeem their copy? Where do folks go from here?
Yeah. So the book comes out. It'll be out when this is released on January 26th. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's called Rewrite the Rules. And then if you want to, I have the first 23 pages. If you go to alexstarr.com/rewrite the rules book, then you can get the first 23 pages, like the introduction, basically, to see if you like it, to kind of test it out a little bit. And then you can always find me on Instagram and stuff too.
Amazing. We'll make sure we get those links in the show notes here so you guys can continue this conversation and go rewrite the rules.
Boom.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Later.
All right, friends. I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life.